They call you lazy because they do not understand the violence of a mind that refuses to sit still. They mistake your unfinished tasks for weakness, but your patterns reveal something far older and far sharper than laziness. If you do this, you are not lazy. You are ADHD gifted. You carry a storm that was never meant for ordinary skies. Your mind does not walk. It sprints. It tumbles. It strikes. It refuses to crawl at the speed the world demands. And every time you try to slow yourself down to match their rhythm, you feel guilt, shame, or confusion rising like smoke from a fire you never intended to start. You have spent years believing you are behind, but you are not behind. You are misused, misunderstood, misread, because if you do this, then you are not broken. You were built different. You start a task with fire in your chest, but the ember cools before the world believes it should. You begin with intensity, then freeze, stuck between hunger and exhaustion, purpose and pressure. They look at your pause and whisper failure, but the truth is far more ruthless. Your mind is a storm engine, and storms cannot move slowly. You were never designed for half power. You were built for all or nothing, depth or silence, speed or collapse. That is not disorder. That is design. The world punishes you for thinking fast, feeling deeply, and noticing everything. They call it distraction, but it is pattern recognition. It is intuition. It is a mind that jumps 10 steps ahead, because one step at a time would suffocate you. You feel time differently because your brain is calibrated for emergencies, for survival, for velocity. Time blindness is not laziness. It is intensity misdirected. Every abandoned project you hate yourself for is proof of your imagination. You saw a path so vivid that reality could not keep up. You did not quit. Your brain simply finished the story internally before your hands could follow. You think in completed worlds. The struggle is not ability. The struggle is translation. And then comes the guilt, the shame cycle, the quiet self-blame that gnaws at your identity. You ask yourself why simple things feel heavy, why you can climb mental mountains but choke on everyday tasks. You compare yourself to people who move like steady clocks, but you are not a clock. You are lightning. You strike, disappear, then strike again with even greater force. If you start strong, stall, then explode with hyperfocus at the edge of panic. You are not lazy. You are living with a brain wired for survival, not routine. You have a warrior's pattern. Your focus is strongest under pressure. Your mind wakes up in the fire, not in the calm. You do not thrive in boredom because boredom kills your momentum. You thrive in intensity because intensity feeds your clarity. You are not too much. You have too much energy trapped behind rules that were never written for minds like yours. They underestimated you because they judged the surface, not the storm beneath it. They saw the scattered desk, the restless habits, the drifting attention, but they did not see the nights your mind refused to turn off. They did not see the 1,000 ideas fighting to be born. They did not feel the weight you carry every day, trying to appear normal in a world that demands silence from a brain built for thunder. And betrayal creeps in when even you start believing their narrative. When you call yourself lazy, weak, undisciplined. But this is the truth. You are none of those things. Your challenge is not ability. Your challenge is direction. Untamed power feels like chaos. Sharpened power becomes unmatched focus. There is a moment every ADHD mind reaches, a psychological breaking point. When the inner storm becomes unbearable, and the shame becomes louder than the potential. That moment is not the end. That moment is the forge. It is where you stop apologizing for the way you think, and start learning to aim it. It is where guilt burns away, and clarity rises like steel pulled from fire. When you realize the world mislabeled your strengths as flaws, something inside you shifts. You begin to see the truth. Your restlessness is creativity trying to escape. Your sensitivity is empathy sharpened into intuition. Your fast thoughts are not chaos. They are signals, warnings, lightning bolts looking for ground. And when you stop fighting your nature and start shaping it, everything changes. This is where your transformation begins. Strategy 1. Build environments, not discipline. You do not succeed because you force yourself to move. You succeed because you create environments where your mind can ignite. You need triggers, reminders, movement, novelty, and purpose. When the environment serves your brain, discipline becomes automatic. Strategy 2. Break tasks into storms, not steps. You need intensity. You need short bursts of focused energy, followed by release. When you work in storms, you do not fail, you rise. Strategy 3. Accept your rhythm. Stop punishing yourself for needing variety, pressure, or stimulation. Accept the rhythm of a gifted mind, and your power becomes clean, sharp, and unstoppable. You are not lazy. You never were. You were gifted with a mind that feels like thunder and thinks like wildfire. You were born for more than quiet routines and small expectations. This is your ascension, and it begins the moment you stop calling yourself broken and start calling yourself what you truly are. ADHD gifted. The world only sees the chaos on your surface. They do not see the war inside. They do not see the thoughts racing so fast they blur. They do not see how every unfinished task carries a weight that crushes you in silence. They judge the symptom but never understand the system underneath it. But here is the truth you were never told. The same patterns that make you doubt yourself are the same patterns that reveal your gift. Your mind is not slow. Your mind is not lazy. Your mind is a forge of impossible intensity. And the moment you understand the mechanics of your inner storm, you stop drowning in guilt and start rising with purpose. Because if you do this, you are not broken. You were built different. There is a moment when your motivation collapses without warning. A single distraction, a single emotional hit, and your entire focus crumbles like wet sand. You stare at the task that once felt easy and suddenly feel nothing. No energy, no spark, no direction. You feel frozen, ashamed, frustrated. But this freeze is not weakness. This freeze is a brain protecting itself from overwhelm. It is a shield, not a failure. Your brain shuts down when it detects a threat, even if that threat is just pressure, boredom, or emotional noise. That shutdown is not laziness. It is survival. It is what gifted minds do when they are overloaded. And then there is the surge. The explosive hyperfocus that arrives at the last moment. When the pressure becomes unbearable, your mind snaps awake with terrifying clarity. Tasks that felt impossible suddenly become simple. Ideas align. Your energy returns like a firestorm. You work faster than most people can think. You build, create, refine, and elevate. You become unstoppable. This is not normal laziness. This is not even normal productivity. This is a weapon. This is a talent. This is a neurological superpower, hidden beneath years of misunderstanding. The world sees inconsistency, but inconsistency is the cost of brilliance. You are not meant to perform at steady levels. You are designed for peaks. You are designed for intensity. You are designed for deep focus, creative leaps, intuitive pattern recognition, and emotional intelligence, so sharp it can cut through lies, intention and hidden truths. You carry empathy that feels like electricity. You sense shifts in tone, energy, or intention. You feel storms before they form. You read emotions with painful accuracy. People call you sensitive, but your sensitivity is not fragility. It is awareness. It is a radar for danger, dishonesty, opportunity, and connection. Your brain is not quiet because quiet would waste its potential. Your brain is loud because it is powerful, and that power has been judged, punished, and misunderstood your entire life. But now you are here, at this point in the story where misunderstanding becomes awakening, and awakening becomes transformation. This is the part where the storm learns to aim itself, because ADHD is not a disorder of focus. It is a disorder of aim. When you aim the storm, you rise. When you fight it, you break. This is the turning point. The world taught you to hide your chaos, but chaos is the birthplace of all creation. Every invention, every discovery, every leap of human progress was born from a mind that refused to think in straight lines. People like you built the world. People like you reshaped it. The ones who could not sit still. The ones who questioned everything. The ones who saw too much and felt too deeply. You belong to that lineage, and now your story shifts into the rebuild. The rebuild begins when you stop pretending you are a clock and start acting like the storm you truly are. You rebuild when you understand that your energy comes in waves, and you work with the waves instead of against them. You rebuild when you break tasks into microstorms, so your mind can ignite instead of drown. You rebuild when you move your body to wake your brain. Motion is medicine for minds like yours. Stillness suffocates you. You rebuild when you forgive yourself for years of shame. You rebuild when you release the guilt that never belonged to you. You rebuild when you stop calling yourself lazy and start calling yourself gifted. You rebuild when you embrace intensity instead of suppressing it. Intensity is your power. Deep focus is your weapon. Pattern recognition is your advantage. Creativity is your fuel. Empathy is your compass. But the true rebirth happens when you combine your emotional fire with emotional discipline. Not discipline that punishes, discipline that guides. Discipline that respects your wiring. Discipline that works with your storm instead of trying to silence it. Because the goal is not to become someone else. The goal is to become the sharpened version of who you already are. The goal is not to hide your mind. The goal is to harness it. And now, 3 advanced transformation strategies to elevate your ADHD power into unstoppable momentum. Strategy 1. Turn emotional intensity into motion. When your emotions rise, do not freeze. Move, walk, clean, write, take physical action. ADHD emotion becomes energy, and energy must move. Motion clears the fog. Motion restores clarity. You were never meant to process emotions sitting still. Strategy 2. Use novelty as fuel, not escape. You crave newness because your brain rewards stimulation. Instead of seeing it as distraction, use it as ignition. Attach something new to something necessary. Small novelty sparks large progress. Curiosity becomes productivity. Strategy 3. Convert shame into identity strength. Every time you feel shame, remember this truth. Shame is misplaced power. Shame is what happens when potential is misunderstood. When you reclaim that power, you rise. When you speak to yourself with respect instead of self-hate, your mind stops fighting you and starts fighting for you. These are not small changes. These are identity level shifts. And once you shift identity, nothing can pull you back. You are not lazy. You are not weak. You are not broken. You are born with a storm inside you that the world has not learned to understand. But you will understand it. You will shape it. You will rise with it. Because you are not ordinary. You are ADHD gifted. You have carried a storm for years. But no one taught you how to read the sky inside your mind. No one taught you why your focus explodes at midnight, why your motivation rises like a wave and disappears without warning, why you can achieve the impossible one day and struggle with the basic the next. They saw the aftermath, not the origin. They judged the noise, not the engine. But now you see the truth. Your patterns are not flaws. They are signals. They reveal a mind built for impact, not for stillness. A mind wired for movement, possibility, danger, opportunity, intensity, and creation. A mind that feels more, sees more, and processes more than anyone around you. You have spent years carrying this power without a manual. Now you are writing your own. Because if you do this, you are not lazy. You are ADHD gifted. And the world has no idea what it means when someone gifted finally decides to rise with clarity instead of collapsing under confusion. The final transformation does not begin with motivation. Motivation burns out. It always has. It always will. The final transformation begins with identity. When you decide that you are no longer the person who apologizes for your wiring. When you decide that you will stop treating your brain like an enemy. When you decide that you will not live your life on your knees, begging for consistency that was never designed for you. The moment you claim your identity, you claim your power. You are not meant to live quietly. You are not meant to shrink so others feel comfortable. You are not meant to dim your instincts, your intuition, your fire, or your imagination. You are meant to wield your mind with intention. You are meant to move through the world with the force of someone who finally understands their blueprint. Gifted minds are not gentle. Gifted minds are not slow. Gifted minds are not predictable. They are intense. They are emotional. They are fast. They are deeply human in ways others cannot comprehend. And when someone like you rises, the world watches. Because you ascend differently. You rebuild differently. You move differently. You rise through destruction, through pressure, through chaos, through storms that would break others. You feel pain with intensity, but you learn with intensity. You fall fast, but you rise faster. You break hard, but you rebuild stronger. You suffer deeply, but you love deeply. You get lost easily, but you find truth faster than anyone else. Your path was never meant to be straight. It was meant to be carved through fire. You have been underestimated your entire life, because most people only understand linear minds. They understand routine, stability, and predictability. They do not understand nonlinear intelligence. They do not understand how your brain leaps across ideas, senses, memories, and visions. They do not understand how you can see patterns in seconds that they miss in years. They do not understand how your intuition feels like truth, arriving early, but now you understand it. And that changes everything. Because the most dangerous version of an ADHD mind is the version that finally knows itself. This is where your power consolidates. When you stop fighting your natural rhythm, your time blindness becomes a different kind of awareness. You feel moments instead of counting them. You live in intensity instead of monotony. You experience life at a pace that others will never understand. When you stop criticizing your emotional sensitivity, you realize it is a superpower. You sense tension before it forms. You read people without trying. You understand pain without explanation. You carry empathy like a weapon forged from your own scars. When you stop punishing yourself for messy habits, You realize they are part of a fast-processing brain that needs accessible information, not tidy illusions. Your desk is not cluttered. It is a map. It is your earned memory. It is your battlefield. When you stop blaming yourself for inconsistency, you realize you do not lack discipline. You lack systems that honor your intensity. You lack environments that spark your ignition. You lack strategies that amplify your strength. But you do not lack ability. You never did. You only lacked understanding. And now the understanding is here. Your final evolution does not come from trying harder. It comes from aiming smarter. It comes from shaping your environment, your habits, your routines, and your identity around the truth of who you are, not the lie they taught you to believe. Because greatness for someone like you does not come from becoming normal. Greatness comes from becoming undeniable. The shift begins when you stop saying I am lazy and start saying my brain needs ignition. It begins when you stop saying I cannot focus and start saying I need the right trigger. It begins when you stop saying I never finish and start saying I need my storm cycles. Identity shapes action, action shapes destiny, and your destiny has always been bigger than the life you were forced to fit into. Now imagine the version of you who finally steps into your power. The version of you who uses intensity as fuel. The version of you who channels emotion into motion. The version of you who splits tasks into storms instead of steps. The version of you who builds systems, environments, and routines that amplify the gift. The version of you who trusts intuition. The version of you who sees the world through the lens of possibility instead of shame. That version of you is not fictional. That version of you is waiting behind one choice, the choice to see your mind as power, not problem. Waiting behind one truth, you were never meant to be ordinary. Waiting behind one realization, the storm inside you was never meant to be tamed. It was meant to be mastered. And today, mastery begins. Because if you do this, if you accept your rhythm, if you align with your wiring, if you aim your intensity, if you build around your truth, then you will stop calling yourself lazy forever. You will understand that you were never weak. You were never unmotivated. You were never broken. You were ADHD gifted. Rise with it. Claim your power and rise.